Hello, and welcome to Quantum Box. We're just going to jump right in, and I'll tell you the first story about the spirit dimension. And in this particular case, the baby abortion spirit dimension. And I'll just start right off with the first story. This one is the story of a friend, and it starts out having nothing to do whatsoever with baby spirits. It is a woman who wants to change the feng shui of her house because she wants to start a new business in that house. So it's kind of a simple request, and my friend, who knows a lot about it and had met this woman in a yoga class, didn't know her that well, but had met her, took the job and said, yep, I'll come and I'll help you. She's very good at interior decorating, and she knows feng shui and is very artistic in the way she arranges interior design. So my friend happens to invite a feng shui Tibetan fit doctor to go on up to Ojai with her, who was in town in LA at a mineral stone convention, and she is an expert in Tibetan mineral stone healing. And so my friend and the Tibetan doctor go on up to Ojai, and they go to the home of the woman who wants to change the feng shui in her house. Now, a little bit of the backstory is that this woman has been in every medical situation she can think of. She's had a stiff, crooked neck for 17 years. All right, my friend does know this. She has had acupuncture. She has had, whatever you can think of that's going to make it go away. And it has not. So now we're at the house up there in Ojai. My friend and the Tibetan doctor walk in, and they hear what the Tibetan doctor has never heard before in their life, but we know what it is, and it is the sound of Native Americans. And you know how they are in a powwow and the beating of the drums and so on and so forth, coming out of nowhere. Well, we know that this house, the Tibetan doctor realizes that this house is at the end of a road where you either have to go right or you have to go left. So that's a T shape, and that has everything to do with feng shui, and also where spirits tend to gather. Just like there is energy on the blade of a knife, energy gathers in certain angles, and that's how energy is conducted. That's physics. So they're listening to this. Everybody's in shock. It starts to rain. And the Indians are chanting. They're doing their powwow, but they're not something that you can see, but you can hear quite well. So we will say that the Tibetan doctor she has a very focused mind, practiced in deep meditation for, I don't know, since she was a child. So let's just say 70 years. And she all of a sudden says, okay, there's a teenage boy in the room. And nobody says anything. My friend doesn't know anything about this. And the person who wants to change their feng shui for a new business in the house says nothing. And then after some silence, the lady whose house it was shared that 17 years ago she had an abortion. She quite literally had that energy hanging around her neck with a crooked neck for 17 years. And I'll tell you, the minute the Tibetan master connected with that spirit, which is quantum dimension and can be done, not by very many, but it can be done. And my friend saw it with her own eyes, or felt it, I should say. She was able to negotiate with that abortion spirit, who was 17 years old, and he agreed with his mom that he wanted to be reborn, that she had suffered a lot, he had suffered a lot, and his mom was really, really, really sorry. And there was enough good karma here that he could be reborn. So the Tibetan doctor put mats of, and I've seen these mats, of natural minerals. They're gigantic mats of stones on the lady's head, and covered her whole body. And the energy in the room just filled with powerful, more Native American chanting. Now, don't forget that there's no Indians there. They're not outside the house. They're not inside the house. They're not really in Ojai anywhere. It continues, and it really begins to rain. And with that said, the sun was actually released, and the reason that it seemed very obvious was that the person who was having the, I guess you could call it healing, but it wasn't planned, sat up. But before she sat up, she kind of flicked her ear a couple times. And my friend said, "Oh my goodness, it smells so much like chocolate in this room." So once the friend wakes up, opens her eyes, her neck just pops up straight. The chronic neck for 17 years, pain, crooked, it's gone. And then the Vajrayana doctor, Tibetan doctor, said that she saw that her grandmother was in the room. And the woman who was getting healed said that when she was a little girl, her grandmother would pull her ear and ask her if she wanted chocolate. So you can't make up this stuff. I couldn't make it up if I tried. So then the Tibetan doctor told her, "Okay, you will have a dream real soon, and the child will come to say goodbye before he goes to be reborn." Quantum physics connection to different dimensions. So the dream came really quickly. Sometimes they do. And the woman shared that in her dream, she was at the ocean. Her 17-year-old son, who showed up as a 17-year-old boy, not a baby, gave her a big hug. And off he went, and her life and her chronic pain was instantly gone. So you make of it what you will, but this is a quantum Vajrayana story. After 20 years of deep analytical meditation, I don't believe in accidents anymore. That's just all I've got to really say about that. And that sometimes the veils are lifted between the dimensions. And I think there's a lot of people that have had these experiences, but they don't talk about it because they don't want people to judge them, or it's so private and it's so intense that they just keep it to themselves. But for the sake of the baby spirits, I want to tell it. And we will continue telling these stories. And then we're going to have an interview. We'll have a live interview coming up soon. And I will tell my story. And we'll continue on with the quantum box, because we're all in this together and all connected. Just like the parts of a net are all connected, the cause and effect is there. I think that this is a story that probably cannot be explained with logic, because it doesn't have anything to do with logic. It has to do with direct experience. I don't always trust my thoughts or my emotions because they're not permanent. But I do trust my experiences, my direct experiences. So with that, I'll close. Be well. Be very, very well. And I wish you well. All right. Bye for now.